And welcome to YOG Talks number 3. Fabric Studios. Love the space. I know a lot of you are coming in, commenting on the space. Talk to Jason. He's starting to host some more events like this. He has comedy nights and music, poetry, all in one, and looking to do some more events. So partnering up with Jason's been great because he believes in this as well, building community, which is what we're doing little by little. GT's Kombucha, which is, again, the sponsor for the evening. They sponsored YOG Talks 2, and they have kindly donated their new flavor, Bloom, which I see Mimi drinking and enjoying immensely.
If I could give my younger self a piece of advice,
what would that be?
I would tell myself,
dream big and fight for your dreams.
Girls can do anything that boys can.
It doesn't matter what people think, it just matters that you be yourself.
That every person is capable of transformation.
That's why GT's has partnered with Born This Way Foundation.
To empower youth.
And inspire bravery.
Take a selfie with any GT's kombucha bottle.
And post it on social media with hashtag #InFullBloom.
For each photo, GT's will donate $5.
$5.
To the Born This Way Foundation.
Up to $50,000.
I am a survivor.
I am a badass. I am spiritual.
I am transformed.
I am
in full bloom.
What is this yog? Is it yoga and it's missing the A? I know a lot of people say that when I wear the YOG shirt. There is yoga involved, sometimes. Meditation. It's a conscious community that I'm building. Why am I a young, older guy? Well, I'm an older guy. I have a video that explains this. Because a buddy of mine and I decided that we became the older guy. All of a sudden, actually. But we adapted and we consoled each other because we convinced each other that we're still young. So even though we've become the older guy now, especially in the eyes of young ladies and gents, we still feel young, and we're young in mind and spirit. And so we're young older guys. And then it just kind of like clicked. Well, yeah, if it's an acronym, we're a YOG. And then for both of us, it was just like, YOG. So we started calling each other YOG and YOG this and YOG that, and then we were convincing other men they were YOGs, and we're like, well, what's the age for a YOG? We've got to figure out an age when someone becomes a YOG, so it's like 35. Yep, sounds good. Being a YOG it's a lifestyle, it's a way of being, and it's not just you're an older guy trying to stay young and deny the aging process. It's about embracing the aging process, and stepping into your power and stepping into the process of aging and getting older gracefully, and understanding and changing your language around getting older as not I'm getting over the hill, now it's downhill, I can't do what I used to do, I can't run as fast as I used to run, or look how I used to. It's changing the language to focus on what's available to me now that I have this wisdom, that I am at this stage of my life, the life experiences I've had, this is powerful. And using that and embracing that and moving forward. Integrity, honorability, all good stuff that makes us good humans with that foundation of giving and contribution. So you'll hear me say that a lot, is living a fulfilling life and inspiring YOGs to do the same has a big element of giving back and contribution. We have a YOG here tonight that I've just met, and an impressive man, tall, handsome, successful, talented, intelligent, with an accent. What's that? That's not me, thank you. No, someone very much like me. We have Bradley Kohn in the house, come all the way down from West Hollywood, an impressive guy. He's a musician. He's also up to big things in the cryptocurrency space and combining that with giving and contribution. I know, mind-blowing. He'll explain it better than me. Come on up, Bradley. I had a video for you, but I don't think you knew it. Have a look at this guy. I'm getting off the stage.
I've been advising a number of companies, and the one I wanted to talk to you guys about today is a company called Give. So I don't know if you can bring up the website.
What is the largest untapped resource on Earth? Our computers. Every computer in the world, the whole 1.5 billion of them, can produce money out of thin air. With blockchain technology, your computer can make you money. So why doesn't everybody do it? Because individual computers can only produce about $5 a month. What the blockchain world needs now is a way to motivate millions of people to play their part in the blockchain revolution and join the network. Why? To create a real distributed blockchain infrastructure that will be stable, usable, and secure. So how do we get them in? Through what they care about most, the artists, creators, and charities that inspire and influence them. UNICEF has 5 million followers on Facebook. If just 1% of their supporters were to get Give, UNICEF would be earning over $3 million a year. Or let's take a YouTuber who has 1 million subscribers. Using Give, 1% of their followers would earn them $50,000 a month. That is over 10 times their current income. The game of monetizing followers is about to change drastically. Our technology is non-intrusive, secure, and user-friendly. It will generate revenues for promoting causes and arts, and while doing so, creating the world's largest blockchain hosting infrastructure. With Give, people can support what they care about, and they don't even need money. Join our pre-ICO now and help us revolutionize worldwide giving. Thank you.
But basically, what Give does is you run a very small application on your computer that runs in the background when you're not using your computer. And you don't even need to really know that it's mining crypto, but it is mining crypto using the GPU, so the graphics card on your computer. And it makes about $5 a month, which for us in this room is essentially a cup of coffee. It's not going to change anyone's life. But if you have a cause that you're passionate about and you'd like to support, you can now give that money away. And it's basically, the electricity that your home computer is using while you leave it on, it's now being put to some use. So if you think that the average YouTuber, for example, earns $1.50 for 1,000 views, and YouTubers who have less than 1 million subscribers aren't really big enough to be represented by a maker or one of these big agencies. But if they had 500,000 followers and they converted 1% to download the app at $5 a month, that would be 25 grand a month, which they could put towards their favorite causes or enable them to keep creating art or whatever it might be. So we're still in the kind of early phases of this project, but we're looking to build out a network where people can give to causes, charities, influencers that they're passionate about and have a big network effect without necessarily needing to put their hand into their pocket.
I think the question on most people's lips, especially the women, are you single? Welcome, ladies. Just have 2 questions about what Bradley was talking about that I don't understand. And clearly you don't either. Jace.
How do you plan to sort of overcome people's fears of running an application on their laptop that's clearly connected to the world and the internet, even though it's for a good cause? That would probably worry a lot of people.
Yes. That's a great question. So actually from another project that I've been working on, which has a lot of insight into human behavior, what I've realized is that people tend to respond to the brand, the offer, and the mode of distribution, right? So if some random company asked you to download an application, as you said, you might be skeptical. But if it came from a charity that you already support, or if it came from an influencer that a young person is really passionate about, then that kind of shortcuts that synaptic process. So then it's like, okay, well, I like this charity. I want to support this initiative, and it's come to me through their website, which I was looking at anyway, for example. But it could come in a myriad of different ways. Does that make sense?
How do you choose which companies are using or mining essentially?
For this project?
Yeah.
So different cryptocurrencies work with different protocols or different like systems. So this mines any GPU-based crypto, so Ethereum, Zcash, things like that. So Bitcoin, for example, is proof of work, and that works on the CPU cycle, so it wouldn't mine Bitcoin, for example. Beautiful. Beautiful. Great question. Lots of big words coming out. That was great. Well done.
Hey y'all, this is Adam Gilad, author of Deep Attraction Online. I am a writer by trade. I've been a screenwriter for years, taught university writing, I've done very high-level marketing writing, and I'm really fascinated by language and how people communicate successfully and unsuccessfully. And I wrote Deep Attraction Online for men because most men have no idea how to communicate to women. Commitment itself, I don't believe, is a virtue. You know what a virtue is? Honesty, kindness, authenticity, humor in the face of danger, perseverance in the face of difficulty. Those are virtues. You're probably wondering why I'm holding this hammer. I'm holding this hammer to remind you that there are some things that men are great at. We're really good at hammering things. We're really good at fixing things. We're really good at opening jars and moving spiders outside. We're very good at those things. You know what we're not good at? Mind reading.
Hey, what's up, and welcome back to the Relationship School's Smart Couple Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Gaddis. What is going on with men right now?
Everything starts with economics, and economics have changed. Women are empowered. They not only have their feminine power, but now they got a whole bunch of masculine power too. You know, I worked on Wall Street, I worked in Hollywood, I worked in the music industry, and there are very powerful women out there, and they're very effective. So on an economic scale, men are being displaced in a certain kind of way. Of course, that opens new opportunities. However, any group that feels threatened, that feel their obvious power, grip on power weakening, they're going to get defensive. They're going to get resentful. They'll even get hostile. And we're seeing that in the response to the Me Too movement, because there's a lot of pent up kind of rage and confusion for men. Mm-hmm. So that's the economics of it. And then the culture of it is, men have lost their traditional masculine role. More or less. I mean, we're still physically protective, obviously, with our families. But the value of brute force isn't that valuable anymore. And so the protective role has come under question. The bread making role, definitely coming under question. I happen to love women who make a lot of money. Doesn't threaten me, but some guys feel really threatened by that, right? It's a threat to their notion of masculinity.
Listen to this guy, impressive. Did his PhD work at Stanford in language and communication. Stanford Humanities Center graduate research fellow. I always love that word, fellow. So you're a yoff. Yeah. You're a young older fellow. I like that. Emmy nominated as an executive producer with over 20 credits as a writer and producer. This is just some of what Adam's achieved, and what he's up to in the world right now is the most impressive. And Deep Attraction Online, dating coach, relationships, workshops. He just did an amazing workshop last weekend for men, the Inspired Man workshop. I was out of town, I'll be at the next one, Adam. And very, like I said, in alignment with YOG. We can go on to Wendy's video.
Here's a secret. Understanding the science of relationships is the superhero power of the tech age. You know, technology was supposed to keep us in touch, but it's not touching anything tender, anything human. We're wired to connect. In fact, the worst punishment for humans is isolation. And those who learn how to make an authentic human connection, whether it be advertisers connecting with customers, politicians with voters, parents with their children, teachers with students, and yes, adults forming healthy romantic relationships. Those people rise to the top. They report the greatest life satisfaction, and according to research, they even accumulate more wealth. I help people become aware of their attachment style to help them avoid the pitfalls of early life speed bumps. Because having a secure attachment style leads to better health, more profits, and more happiness.
Let's do this together. I hope to meet you soon.
Okay, you can pause there. Please welcome to the stage Adam Gilad and Dr. Wendy Walsh. Now, the topic for tonight is the evolution of relationships. Just a theme I came up with. We can call it relationships evolving. And I remember having a chat with Wendy the other day, which blew my mind in 10 minutes. She's an evolutionary psychologist, among many other qualifications that Wendy has. A lot of work with media, Adam, you as well. Especially in Hollywood. So we're not going to mention it just yet, but we will 100% come across the hashtag that is on everyone's lips. What conversations we'll start with you, Wendy, what conversations do you have around the aging process that both serve you and don't serve you? And Adam, you can answer the same thing.
Let me just say that a relationship in simple terms is simply an exchange of care. And that care can take many forms. It can be financial care, it can be domestic responsibility care, it can be sexual care, it can be physical care if someone's ill, it can be Medicare. All kinds of care. And what happens as we move across a lifespan and change physiologically as we develop is that our needs change and the kinds of care we need change. So when women are in their fertility window and they're looking to date and mate, if they decide that they want to build a family, in this particular culture we don't have a lot of supports for single parents, and so they may be looking for somebody who can have a commitment, somebody who maybe has enough financial resources so they can take time to give domestic responsibility if they choose to have traditional gender roles. As people age and get older, maybe kids get older, and the needs change in a relationship. No matter what, being alone and isolation is really bad for our health. But being traditionally married isn't necessarily the best for our health if that marriage isn't fulfilling, if it's not giving us the exchange of care that's fair for both sides. It's a big opening.
So, let me give some context. I like to put things in big cultural context and historical context so that we don't blame ourselves and we don't blame each other. So there's two big, I think, cultural shifts happening. One is the totally unnatural burden put on couples to be everything to a partner. If you've ever traveled anywhere around the world, or if you know anything about history, the idea that you should be everything for a partner is an anomaly in human history. Only in the last 50 years has that existed. It's inhuman, literally inhuman. It's never happened before. So there's an expectation that the person needs to be your best friend, your financial partner, your lover, your psychologist, the child raiser, the housekeeper, everything, each other, everything on each other, and it's unnatural. I don't think it's healthy also. Yeah, it's just where we are. The other huge trend, and I'm going to step back here. So Karl Marx, you all remember Karl Marx? Remember him? Yeah. So he had a theory called economic determinism, which says that economic structures create social forms. So marriage came about through agriculture, when there was actually possession, right? About 10,000 years ago. Pretty recent on the human scale.
So suddenly you can own things and you can hoard things, and you needed to know what your patrimony was, right? You needed to know who the children were. So therefore you got marriage, which was essentially ownership of women. So that's lasted for a really long time. We had an ownership economy. What do we have now? We have, well, not quite, not yet. Who's living in the future? Somebody. We have what's really kind of a lease option economy, right? So I have a book title called The Lease Option Marriage. Like, do you take this woman to be your wife for 1 year on the condition that she doesn't put on 50 pounds and the condition that he doesn't lose his job? But that's actually how we operate, because that's how economic minds work. If Verizon is not serving us, what do? Right, we don't stick it out, we switch to AT&T. That's how our minds work now. Our minds have shifted away from ownership to lease option, positive and negative. The positive side is we expect more from each other, and we all need to step up emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, socially, all the ways that we need to step up into relationship, which is hard.
Or we need to spread it around.
Or we need to spread it around.
More social support in general.
Right, that's the first sort of thing. And the negative side is, and we were talking about this just before, with lease option, if you're Verizon, you're like, oh, fuck, it's not working. Like, I'm going to switch to AT&T. Hang on a second. Like, call Verizon. Let's see if you can work it out. Figure it out. Like, maybe you need to take one step to the right to get reception. So the problem with the lease option mindset is that we run at exactly the point where growth is about to happen. And we were talking about this. And that's the beauty of actually relationship and intimacy, is that it's a forge for spiritual, emotional growth that you cannot get anywhere else. So... yeah, so the positive side is, wait.
We're going to negotiate this together.
Wait, I'll give it to you a second.
I just want to say one thing, that Adam and I connected in a big way over this one thing. Every relationship is a gymnasium for our mind. A relationship only is over when both partners have stopped growing, and the workout is too hard for both of them. Not too hard, it's too easy. There's no longer any challenge. Continue.
Yeah, happily. Yeah, so there's a positive and negative. So I always like to say that to people so they don't get into this whole kind of like, oh, all men are bad, all women. No, there's things happening that are larger cultural contexts. So I don't know if that answered your question about aging. But that's the context of what's happening in general. I'll say one thing about aging, because I'm going to do that one day. The world is flat in some ways. You know, the internet has kind of flattened things so that, and I've written about this, and it's a hot topic. You know, some people get angry. That in the same way that you can now, in the old days, if you dated across race or religion, it was a problem, right? So now the question is, because the world is kind of flattened, you can be 50 and 30 and have the same books, the same intellectual interests. You can connect on so many levels, right? Across age, that it's now creating a whole new world of people connecting through passion and heart, but at different stages of life, which is just an interesting new thing that I don't think ever existed before.
Amazing. I love the little, like a bickering couple. It's great.
I have to say, we spoke on a stage, and I loved being on stage with Wendy because she actually knew what she was talking about.
Yeah.
Unlike everyone else on the stage.
Pressure's on. So, I actually have a question for Wendy, because I'm sure this, again, back to the YOG concept. I guess I'm committed to empowering men to step up. You mentioned step up. We get to step up, both men and women. And for men in particular, I have a question. What are the most common, I guess, misconceptions of men with regards to how they are showing up for women, how they perceive women want us to show up versus how they are actually showing up?
Well, it's both things, actually. So I think that specifically in America, we have such a narrow definition of masculinity, and men are put into such a small man box. And unfortunately, this has also been ingested by women, is that women tend to only like that hyper-masculinity in men that verges in some areas into toxic masculinity. I just came back from Stockholm, where they have such a wide range of masculinity on display in Sweden. It was just beautiful to see. And because fatherhood is legislated, you get 18 months parental leave, but one parent is not allowed to take it all. Another parent has to take at least 3 months of it. So you literally have roving gangs of baby-wearing men out at the parks and restaurants, and it's just fabulous to see this everywhere. And I think that we also associate emotional vulnerability and intimacy with femininity.
which is absolutely insane. That's humanity. That's all it is. We teach our boys not to cry, especially the more high testosterone, macho, athletic ones. We tell them to suck it up. And then we get into our personal relationships, and either men think, well, women want that because that's what's cool, right? Or if, God forbid, you guys show us your humanity, then women don't honor it, and they push it away. So I think it's not just about men stepping up, it's about women honoring and respecting the humanity in men. And, you know, hormones will take over when the lights are out, don't worry. But the rest of the time, we have to respect what is common to us, which is emotional and feelings. And you wanted to add to that, I'm sure.
The question again? I'm still on the hormones. On the lights.
Lights out, hormones. Slightly, same question, but slightly different. I guess you do a lot of work with inspiring men and empowering men, and around relationships as well. So the question was, what are some of the misconceptions? For you, how are you inspiring and empowering men? In what ways to show up for women in relationships?
Great. So interestingly enough, very similar to what Wendy was saying, I think there's a panoply of masculinity. One of the things one thing I fight against is the notion of a real man. Like, this is a real man. I say, well, is a man who's wearing his baby and stays home and cooks and takes care while the wife is out working, is he less a man? Is he not real? Of course he's real. Is a gay couple who is raising a child, are they not real men? Of course they're real men. So this notion of real and not real is the first thing that I go after. To understand that there's a variety of what it means to be masculine, we're really on the same boat about that. Now, in terms of the question again, just to be clear.
What do you teach men? Showing up.
Yeah, so, okay. So, for example, in this weekend we just did. So we had a group of about 50 men from around the world. It was amazing. One of the things I teach is presence. And there's two kinds of presence that I teach. One is physical presence. So it's the ability to be still, open, undefended, and to be able to receive somebody. Traditionally, reception is a feminine quality, right? But men also, of course, we have our anima, we have our feminine aspect, and so we have to learn how to just receive without reacting. How many women love a guy who can hear you without reacting? Every woman, right? Absolutely. So this physical presence, being able to hear what a woman has to say, like in Me Too, for example, just to be able to hear it without having a reaction. It's a beautiful skill of presence. The other thing I teach men is emotional presence, which is very different. An emotional presence means not being wrapped up in your sense of mood, sense of what you think the world should be. You know, in many ways they call it the high chair tyrant, you know, the child who wants to control the world. We don't know anyone like that in politics, by the way, today. There's nobody like that who needs to control everything around him. Never heard of anyone like that. But there's a smaller aspect where men and women, but we're talking about men. Men need to control sort of what's happening around them through their mood, rather than just being open. Like being able to just hear what's happening and not be in a state and saying, I can only receive information in a certain way. And this is a practice. You're a rugby player, right? So just like athletics, just like any sport, just like any skill, it's practice, practice, practice. This shit does not come easy. I've spent years working on this. I'm not perfect at it at all. But it's really a practice of mine to just stay open and to hear and not be involved in my thought patterns and what I want out of the world. And just to experience, for example, my woman stating what she needs and where she's at without having a reaction. Very difficult, but doable. And I'll say one last thing. One of my frames for relationship is people always say marriage is work. Who believes that? Marriage is work. Like that's the common thing. But it's actually not. It's also skilled play. I'm huge into play. I did a lot of work in my graduate world there around this notion that we're actually playful creatures. As children, we learn through play. But there's frivolous play, like just silliness, which is fine. But then there's skilled play. Right? LeBron James. He is good at what he does. What if we looked at our relationship and our presence as skilled play, like developing the skills so that we can actually play at this game of intimacy and openness and vulnerability as much as we look at our professional life? What if we developed our skills with the same intensity that we do that for professional life?
Love it. Thank you, Adam. And Wendy, we'll get to you, Ken. we're going to get, I'll stop asking questions. I know you probably have a lot of questions, so I want to actually have a longer segment of Q&A with you guys. And we've got until Dr. Wendy needs to leave in about 20 minutes. Right, you see that? Dating. Yes. The evolution of dating. Can you speak into, and I know you definitely can, Adam, but especially can you speak into, with online dating coming to the fore now?
Well, let us go back to what our biology is wired for in our anthropological past, where we roved, moving all the time, about maybe 30 to 40 people. Most of them were biologically related to us. And every once in a while, when we were lucky, some hunter would wander in from another tribe, and man, his pheromones smelled so darn good because he didn't smell like our brother or our cousin. In fact, what pheromones indicate in a potential mate are immune systems. So when you mate with somebody, you might take brown eyes from one, long legs from another, curly hair from another, except immune systems. Immune systems combine to create a stronger human. And the way that we are able to detect that somebody has a disparate, different immune system is through pheromones. So if you think back on the best sex you've ever had in your life, you remember the smell. And that means that you were actually set up to make fitter offspring. So let's jump ahead. So there really weren't many opportunities for mating outside your tribe. You were really lucky if you were able to find a mate and have kids, right? And then by the way, these tribes, once they got up to be 40, 45 people, they would split and wander off into two groups of 20 until they grew. And you cut today, I'll just quickly go through farming, where it was the big downfall of women, of course, as soon as we stopped roaming. And if you look at hunter-gatherer species that are studied today on the planet, the gatherers, the women, actually pull in more calories. They're not so sexy calories because they're nuts and seeds and fruits and vegetables, but way more calories than that woolly mammoth who mostly rotted to the side that you got once in a blue moon. Today's version of the woolly mammoth, by the way, is... You know, a blockchain? No, I was going to say the Super Bowl ring, because what a woolly mammoth did is it exhibited waste. So the guys would team together because they could get enough squirrels for their wife. But no. If they got on the team and they pulled back a woolly mammoth, there's no refrigeration. What are you going to do with that fresh meat? Oh, you could share it with more women or higher status women and maybe get a little more pussy. So... today's woolly mammoth would be the Super Bowl ring, of course. So go to farming, where men had to quarantine women. They had to figure out if that's, I have a hut, as Adam said, if I have a hut and a farm and some tools to leave to somebody, I better figure out who my offspring are. Some anthropologists believe that monogamy was invented by men because women were moving so fast with their clan of girlfriends gathering that if a guy wanted to know who his baby was, he had to stay on her tail. So therefore, it was actually men that developed monogamy. So farming was the downfall. I'm going to skip past through the industrial age and get to the technological age. We are exposed to way too many romantic choices, and we are wired to sit up straight when a hunter with different smelling pheromones walks in the room. And as a result, in our entire anthropological past, we probably never laid eyes on more than 150 humans during our entire lifespan. And now, as you know, there are 1,000 new humans a thumb swipe away. So what it's doing, and I call it kind of junk food sex, is that just like we have an insatiable craving for salt, sugar, and fat, and every fast food company has figured that out because these were trace nutrients in our past, and we needed them for survival, and now they're piled into every processed food out there. In the same way, the modern dating industry has created junk food sex, so that we're responding quickly to cues. Oh, new hunter, new tribe, let's move on that. That's exciting, right? And we're spending less time at losing. We don't take the time to develop the emotional connection, because at the end of the day, what keeps couples together for the long haul? If you ask couples who are, happy couples who've been together for decades, what was it that they kept together? It wasn't because the sex was hot. It wasn't because somebody was rich. It wasn't because life was easy. It was because they had compassion for their partner. If you talk to men who don't cheat and you ask them why they don't cheat, they don't say, well, I just have a low sex drive. They say, no, it would really hurt my wife. I think about her. It's the emotional connection that ends up keeping people together for longer.
I love listening to you. That was great. You just gave me a great idea for new business. Scratch and sniff dating app. So like.
Well, we already have instant chemistry.
Oh yeah, right, with Match, yeah.
I'm on the board of a company that does DNA matching. You spit into a tube and they can tell you if you'll have hotter sex for longer, a lower divorce rate, and a longer relationship. InstantChemistry.com.
Instant chemistry. Scratch and sniff dating.
It's a DNA test matching.
Yeah, by the way, there are great. There's great research behind this, by the way, where women will smell the T-shirts, stinky T-shirts of men, and they'll be repulsed by anyone who's related to them without knowing. So it's very interesting. So we really are wired.
They find more T-shirts smelling good when they're ovulating.
Yeah, okay, that's a whole other issue. Yeah, women who are ovulating prefer more alpha males. It's a whole weird thing.
While we're on ovulating, can I tell you that funny thing about why strippers make so much more money when they're ovulating? You would think they would gyrate more, right? But no, they're these hard-working researchers who had to spend a lot of time in strip clubs figuring out this information. What they discovered is that when women are ovulating, their voices get just a little bit softer. Why do you think Marilyn Monroe was so breathy, right? It indicates fertility. It indicates ovulation, and men can pick it up. They don't know why. They've done lots of studies where men just talked on the phone to women, and they asked men to rate these women, never seeing their picture, and the men always rated the women with the slightly higher voice, and that woman was always ovulating. So you're saying, well, in a strip club, he can't hear her talk. How does he know she's ovulating to tip her so well? In strip clubs, they're very noisy and they're very dark. Strippers make the most money on lap dances. How does she get a lap dance? Hi, honey, you want to have a lap dance? So he gets her voice.